If you're a copywriter looking for that dream client in 2025, 2026, your portfolio has to be more than just a bunch of links. Think about your portfolio as a project magnet. It needs to attract the work you want, romance you as their dream writer, demonstrate that you have the skill, and is perfectly packaged. And we're going to talk about all of that in today's video. Hi, I'm Rowan, and this is copyhouseurchin, and today we're talking about portfolios. Number one, tailored, speaking the client's language. I was actually talking to a friend the other day. I said, if you are a copywriter and you want to practice copywriting skills, creating your portfolio is actually a really great way to do that because it's all copywriting. Right now, what we're talking about is positioning and messaging, and that all has to do with audience research. And in this case, it's your brand. It's that industry that you want to get into. So once you have that idea dialed in, who you want to work for, or in what niche or category, etc., now you need to research what their whole world is comprised of. And that, no matter what industry you're talking about, is always going to be a set of goals, challenges, customers, and products and services that they sell, even if it's an idea, like a environmental movement, for example. So when you're researching this whole world of your industry to figure out what's important to them, here are a few places that you can actually look for this information. You want to check out websites, product and service pages, client or user testimonials or reviews of that product or service. Check out press releases and news, emerging trends and technology and best practices, founder or executive details, rounds of funding, and their social media or digital footprint. And then you want to be thinking critically about all of these assets that you're looking through. You're going to be asking yourself some questions. Here's a few ideas. This is what I ask anytime that I'm building a portfolio for myself or a client. What are the brands or the industry's overall goals? Is there a mission? Are they all facing some kind of problem or challenge? What are they selling and how are they selling it right now? And again, even if that's an idea, they're still selling something. Who's on the executive team and are they public facing? If they're public facing, what kind of content are they talking about? What do their client testimonials tell me about that brand or about that industry? Where there might be some opportunities there that writing can maybe fill, and what do they really care about? What's their mission, their pain points they're solving, their goals? Through all of this research, you're really just trying to figure out where their head may have been when they placed that help wanted ad, and then your job is to kind of figure out how you can solve that problem with your skill, which is copywriting. So that insight will then guide every decision that you make as far as what content samples that you select, how you craft your bio, any sort of enhancements, and we'll get to that in a minute. The whole point of all of this audience research and positioning and messaging is that when they actually find your resume, look at your portfolio, they go, okay, finally somebody who actually gets it. Number two, romantic. Selling your style and your value. In sales, there's this concept called romancing the product, and that means just presenting something in a way that makes the reader or the audience or the customer emotionally connect with it. And you want your portfolio to do that for you as well, because you're selling your services as a solution to a business problem, right? So how do we do that? We do that throughout the portfolio with great samples, and we'll get to that. But I think the best way to make that connection is in your bio. So of course there's technical stuff that you want to put in there, like years of experience and what content formats you know. But I think there are more things that you can add that really helps to romance you as their ideal writer. Here are some of those ideas. Your years of experience and highest level of scope and responsibility. So this one out of everything is probably the most technical. Obviously, years of experience is a hard number. The types of content that you know, like blog, email, etc. But don't just list your roles or the content that you know. Think of it in terms of outcomes that are relevant to a writer. So readership, audience growth, even conversion and sales are all important. Unique background and unique point of view. So too often I find that writers coming from a non-traditional background, a non-writing background, maybe they're changing industries or specialties, try to downplay this a lot. And I think that's a huge mistake because you have the ability to figure out how that is a unique advantage to that target audience, to that industry that you're trying to go in for. So for example, if you were a retail manager and you worked in retail for a number of years, and now you're going into copywriting and you want to work for, consumer packaged goods or the softline retail, that's clothing, whatever it is, you have ground level expertise in what customers want, what they don't want, how they shop, what makes them excited, what makes them like wait for that next sale. You have all of that information that a consumer product company or a soft lines company would literally spend thousands of dollars on research to find out. So think about it from that perspective. Your situation may not be retail. You might come from a different background, but start to think about how your background is actually a unique advantage to your target audience. The next one is your philosophies. Now, this one's probably for your more seasoned writers. If you're a writer with some experience, you probably do have a hot take or an opinion on how content is written. And so, for example, if you've ever had an argument with somebody about how perfect grammar kills authenticity and connections, then you probably have stumbled on a core value that might be a guiding light on your approach to how you write content. You value connection over making it look like a college essay. Something like that can be a platform for your whole bio, what you stand for. You stand for authenticity, real human connection. And in the age of AI, that's probably really valuable. So think about that sort of thing. What are your philosophies? What do you think content should be doing? And work those into your bio. The next one is passions, missions, and core values. You can be of any experience level for this one because you don't have to have years of experience to have core values or a special mission that you want to support. Now, this one's actually really important. If you're targeting a specific industry or type of company because of the mission and core values that they represent, and they align with your core values and mission, then you really want to explore how to work that into your bio, because clients or brands love working with people who actually get them. So whether it's sustainability or education or tech or community, find that common ground and highlight it as a part of your bio. Last but not least, personality. Please show off your personality in your bio, your writing style, because this is, again, another differentiator between you and a million other writers out there. The bio is a perfect place to show your personal style, and I think it's what makes people lean in and then hop right over to the email to schedule an interview with you before you get scooped up by another brand. If you want to learn more about how to figure out what makes you special, then you really need to check out my blog called Your Message. It walks you through how to info mine your resume, how to draw the right insights, and how to formulate your bio. I call it message in the blog, but it's the same thing. Number 3, informative. Unpack your skills and your knowledge. Don't think that just sending samples is enough to get you hired. Usually people reviewing your portfolio are not fellow writers. They're usually professional recruiters. Maybe they're a department chief, but the bottom line is they don't know your job as well as you do. So what may seem very obvious to you, like that's a great headline, or that's a hook, or I used a call to action here, they may not know that. They may just be operating with a literal list of keywords that they're trying to find. Make it abundantly clear that you have technical skills, and this is exactly how to do it. Number 1, create a case study. Now, this is about a case study about your own content. You want to explain the challenge you were trying to solve, your plan to solve it, your role in solving it. This is an opportunity for you to show that you understand how content can deliver a result. It shows your strategy, which is actually a huge skill that is called for in 2025. So here's an example and a breakdown of a recent case study that I put together for a client's portfolio. So you're going to notice that there's a headline that describes the project. Then there's a subheadline that speaks to a common challenge that her target audience, who are CEOs, are facing. So it's going to resonate with other CEOs. Then there's a challenge, solution, and win. That's the basic wireframe for a case study. The challenge explains the issue, setting this scene and creating tension, which is a storytelling device, actually. And then we're going to talk about the solution, how she demonstrates her strategic knowledge and what she planned to do in order to solve that problem. Next is the actual win. And this is where we show how she delivered on that promise, and it eventually relieves that tension that we set up at the beginning. And then as the sprinkles on top, we actually added the story down here. So it invites the CEO or whoever is looking at the portfolio to find out a little bit more about that story. Let's zoom out a little bit here. How did you feel about my handle on case studies? Do you feel like I kind of understand how they work? If you're answering,
yeah, it kind of looks like you know how to write a case study,
then the breakdown worked. This is exactly how you're going to build credibility and trust with your target audience. Here's the next idea. Break down a piece of content into an anatomy. So you're going to label the technical elements and explain why that hook is bonkers brilliant, show off your platform, perfect formatting. So here are two examples. I'm going to put them on screen. Here are two examples from another portfolio that I recently created for a different client. We have a press release and a blog. Each sample actually has labeled on the content itself. We go 1 through however many numbers we need. And then on the margin, you see that I have mirrored those numbers and I've labeled each one. So it becomes a really clean way to label a piece of content. And you're going to notice that on the press release, it includes a little bit more context, because if you actually looked at her press release, it looked like it came right out of a textbook for media comms. And I wanted to address that because that's her level of expertise. So I'm literally spelling out that value. I'm not expecting somebody to look at this and know,
oh, it's a perfect press release.
Maybe they wouldn't know that, but we're going to call it out. We're going to literally say that. And then in the blog post, I labeled all of these different components and parts to an engaging blog. And you're going to notice that I didn't just label the technical stuff like headline or hook. I gave them adjectives. This is an unexpected headline. This is a grabby hook. And in number 4, I'm even demonstrating that I understand, or she understands, storytelling. We're pulling the audience through. It's increasing readability. I could have even said that too. Increases readability or read through. Now, the reason you do the case studies and the anatomies, and you can even do them together, the reason you do that is even if your audience, that recruiter or first gatekeeper, doesn't understand the technical aspects, they're going to know that you do, and that increases your credibility and trust with them. Number 3, and this is a non-negotiable, project descriptions. Every asset that you put in your portfolio absolutely needs some context. Otherwise, it's a useless asset. Remember, the recruiter doesn't know you. They don't know what kind of scope of work that you normally have. They're not going to know what they're looking at. You have to tell them. So you create a brief. It can be just a sentence or two to explain what the project was so that they have some sort of context when they're then reading your writing sample. So I want to show you mine from my own portfolio. This is a very short type, and there's a lot of ways you can write a brief. I just did mine in kind of a storytelling format without like labels or anything. It's got the basic context of the project, what I was trying to do, what that challenge was that I was solving, and then what that desired outcome was. Now, this is a project where I just handed over the content and I have no idea if they implemented it, if they used it, if it got results that they were looking for. So in this case, what I did was I shared what the intention was, what the desired outcome was. And that's what you can do too if you don't have actual results. Number 4, packaged. This one's really powerful. You can have the perfect bio and the perfect samples, but you're going to tank your chances at that new project if your portfolio is just a messy bunch of links. The way you present your content makes or breaks your perceived value with the client. So this is what makes recruiters scramble to book you before you get scooped by another brand. You may have noticed that all the samples I've shared were designed. I designed them all in Canva, and we will get to that later. But you don't need anything that fancy to get started if you're pressed for time or you're not tech savvy or you're not design inclined. Let's just start with my personal favorite, Google Drive. And if you don't have Google, you can do the same thing in Microsoft. I think it's OneDrive. You can do the same setup there. Setting up your Google Drive portfolio. This is all about organization and helping your visitors navigate to find what they need. So you want to create a main portfolio in your Google Drive and label it with your name and portfolio. and then drag in all the content you want to share, or you can create the documents fresh right there and write those. Then you can help visitors find exactly what they need with something called a portfolio dashboard. This is a kind of start here document that houses all the links to your content, and also, by the way, is a very good place for your bio, wink wink. Instead of your visitors trying to sort through a ton of folders or content documents to find what they need, they just go to that document where everything's organized and labeled, and they can just click to read whatever they want. So there are a lot of ways you can organize your Google Drive. Here are, I think, 4 of my favorite ways to organize. By individual content piece. This is a really good idea if you only have a few samples. By content type. It's a good option if you have several of a specific kind of content. By industry. This is a great option if you do write for a specific industry a lot. By client or project. This is a really great option if you produce a lot of content for a specific client or project, especially bonus points if you have created part or all of a marketing funnel. Marketing funnels, sales funnels, customer journeys they're all variations of the same skill that are in high demand in 2025. Now, here's a pro tip. You want to triple check that your sharing permissions are turned on so that when people click on a piece of content, they don't get that access denied screen, which is a bad look. If you want a step-by-step guide in how to set all of this up, I have the instructions inside of Roadmap to Writer. I will link it somewhere below this video. Inside, you actually have a 90-day schedule to create your portfolio. You have a demo project with a assignment with a copy style guide, an industry standard template. There's a lot of goodies in there to get you started. So I definitely recommend that. Now let's talk about building a Canva portfolio. My first portfolio was made in Canva. I love Canva. I still use it for all of my client portfolio builds. And the reason I like it is because it gives you all the flexibility and control you want to craft your portfolio however you want to. You can sequence it in any way that you want. And I use a Canva portfolio as my primary asset when people ask me for my portfolio. But here's the thing, you can actually do this in tandem with Google Drive, which is what I recommend. Throughout the portfolio, we have hyperlinks to full documents because I usually prefer just excerpts in the Canva one so it doesn't overwhelm the experience. So while the Google Drive portfolio is really powerful, a designed portfolio lets you take the visitor on a journey. It's like a curated path that you're designing to tell a certain story about yourself and your skill. And while you can add those case studies or the anatomies and label things in a Google document, it can be really easy to miss. But if it's in a Canva portfolio, it's just the next slide. They're not going to miss. So that becomes really powerful when you're taking your, visitor through a journey. I guess you get to be the storyteller and you get to be the leader, which is why I like it. And it was why I liked using both, actually. So if you are up for creating a Canva portfolio, I have some best practices for you. The first one is to curate. You don't want to put everything you've ever written or cram 1,000-word blog onto one slide in your portfolio. You want to be really strategic in what you show. Everything should showcase a different skill or core competency of being a writer. If you do have long form, say blogs and articles, maybe you take 2 paragraphs and that hook and headline and showcase that, and then add a hyperlink to the full document if somebody wants to go ahead and read the whole thing. But they don't have to. They get that message and that idea just by the excerpt. Next, you want to keep the whole portfolio really short. I think the sweet spot is somewhere between like 8 and 15 slides. There's no hard and fast rules. It's really, up to what you want to put in there. And I think that's just enough room for your bio and maybe a skills slide, a lot of samples, and then even a couple of slides for your testimonials, reviews, and contact details. Linking your full samples. So we did just talk about this, but be really judicious in what you select to put in this portfolio. Remember, it's a design forward portfolio if it's in Canva. Think about how can I communicate and get my point across without exhausting them. So be really strategic in how you pull your excerpts and samples. And then again, link out to the full samples so they can have the option of reading it if they want to. And here's a tip. Never, ever link a live website if your stuff has been published online. And the reason is that you don't own that publisher page and they can change it, they can delete it. So if you're using that hyperlink and somebody clicks on it and it's now gone, they're going to get a 404 message, which isn't a good look. Or something else that happens a lot is, the marketing manager or whatever will go in and change things, and then it doesn't represent your style anymore, and maybe it doesn't sound as good as it could. But in any case, it doesn't represent you. So never ever link to a live website. But if you want to, keep that feather in your cap, then maybe when it goes live, you take a screenshot of what it looked like at the time. You can add it to your Google Drive document. Becoming the writer of their dreams is a trip. The people who make the hiring decisions at your dream companies are also hoping for a perfect match. When they stumble on your profile in the digital wilds, that's your meet cute. And now your job is to set the stage for a really great relationship so that you can take two virtual strangers and end up as a writer brand soulmate pair. When your portfolio is tailored, romantic, informative, and packaged, you prove that you're just the strategic, creative genius that they have been looking for. And the journey's not just for them. I know we've been talking about curating their experience with you by crafting this journey that you will lead them on, but really this is for you too, because when you create a portfolio, it really makes you do a lot of self-reflection, and you're going to ask some big questions. You're going to be asking, what missions you want to support, what makes you special, what is your value, what are your guiding philosophies, and what kind of content can you see yourself writing for the next, 3 years.